Hello, and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Apologies for the third day in a row that there is no show live as usual, and I didn't expect to be here. As you can tell, I'm not in my usual surroundings this morning, as I was supposed to be. Was supposed to be back at home following the game against Burnley. Yesterday, some situations happened in the UK, which you may or may not have been aware of by now. But effectively, what happened to me yesterday is so circumstantial in comparison to some of the suffering that some other people are currently going through as a result of the horrendous attack on the LNER train line in the Huntington area last night. To give you some background, and yes, I am going to go and talk about the game a little bit later on in today's recording. I can't do the show live as I would even from this hotel room because I've got a train quite early, just after 8 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, better than leave you out the know of what's been going on, I'll just hop on and record a quick episode and discuss everything that's kind of happened and what was going on. So we'll talk about the game in a second. If you want to fast forward, feel free. I don't have the exact timestamp yet, but fast forward and you can skip this bit of the episode. So yesterday, of course, travelling back from Burnley, game finished about 5 o'clock, did the press conference at around just after 5. Wrapped up pretty quickly. My train from Burnley, which had about 3 to 4 changes back to London, was expected to leave Burnley at around 6:39, and it did. It left on time. I went one stop to Todmorden before then changing at Todmorden to go to Leeds, which is about an hour train. Again, no problems on that line. They were kind of the two areas that I was most concerned about there being a problem because there was only 10 minutes to kind of switch between platforms and trains. But trains were fine and switched very fine. Got on at Leeds, and that's when things started to change. Now, I wasn't aware when I got on at Leeds that already by this point an incident was taking place further down the LNER line towards London. Effectively, with the information that is available to us at the moment, an incident occurred on a train whereby some people have been stabbed. And at the time of recording, from what I've read in the BBC News this morning, is that around 10 people are currently in hospital with serious injuries. And as a result, all of the trains, of course, on that line, of which our train carrying myself and many, many Arsenal fans, of course, getting back from the game yesterday, was stopped at it must have been about 9 o'clock. We had reached Retford, which is about an hour or so south of Leeds, and were on that train in that moment for about an hour before we were told not much information, just told that basically if you wanted to move on, if you wanted to leave the area, that your travel would be covered, your potential hotel would be covered. And that's kind of from a personal point of view where things really started to go wrong for me, because I looked at potentially getting an Uber home. It was hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And so I thought the next best option is to try and get a cheap-ish hotel in a nearby city, which would be on a train line not affected in the morning, because with this being such a major incident, I imagine that would be a smarter thing to do. And so Nottingham is an hour cab journey away from Retford, which is about a £50 or so cab journey, and then managed to ring up a Ibis in the area to just book a room and reserve a room so that I could then pay upon arrival. Rang the hotel, absolutely no problem at all. Yes, we will reserve and keep that room ready for you, because as I was looking online, there really wasn't any hotels available whatsoever. Rooms were not showing up on booking.com or anything like that other than this Ibis. So spent the Uber, got to Nottingham last night at around 11:30 in the evening, and arrived at the Ibis hotel to be told that then there were no rooms. And of course, as you can imagine, at 11:30, having been through the kind of chaos that had already taken place, having left Burnley nearly 6 hours earlier, you can imagine my emotions at that point were pretty well at their last thread. Thankfully did find a hotel room in the only hotel that is left, which is in the Hilton here in Nottingham. rather expensive room that I'm now hoping will be honoured by LNER in terms of then suggested they will be covering the cost of the hotels and the travel that it's going to take. I've got a train, of course, very shortly to go back home before then getting another train tonight to Gatwick to stay at another hotel before I fly to Prague tomorrow for Arsenal's Champions League game. It means 4 nights in a row in hotels, of course. And, you know, while I always say that this job is an absolute privilege and it's a joy to be able to cover Arsenal home and away, of course, this was going to be an evening with my family, which, of course, I know I don't get. But I understand and empathise completely that there are going to be people far worsely affected than I was last night. And, again, just to kind of finish this segment of context around what happened last night, of course, thoughts do go out to the people that have been so negatively affected by this situation, and I hope that all the relevant processes go on to find out why it's happened, who it's happened to, who did it, and those consequences come to those. So yeah, that was Saturday. Saturday was pretty crazy and didn't really sleep too much last night. There was a lot of stress. There was a lot of kind of like what ifs going around, and you know, it's when you're that kind of close to an incident, obviously there can be, it kind of swirls around in your mind quite easily. And I've had family members, of course, who have been very close to previous kind of high-profile events here in the UK in the past. So that as well was also going through my mind at the same time. So it was quite a Saturday. So that's 7 minutes I can already see on the clock explaining that situation. And I am now going to go on to yesterday's game at Burnley. And the trip up to Burnley was fine. There was absolutely no problem at all. Got the train up from just South London to Euston, and then get the train from Euston up to Manchester before changing at Manchester to Burnley, which was a more direct route. And I didn't take that route last night because there was not a train going south of London to the south towards South London at a time that I could have got a train back after the press conference had finished. So got up there in good time. Turf Moor, if you're sitting, and you'll see it on the matchday vlog, which will be out a little bit later on today on my Instagram page at Tom Canton Media. The view from the press box is beautiful. Like it's not, and I don't mean that of like the football ground. It's a nice football ground, Turf Moor, but just the view that you see beyond the stands into kind of the countryside in the area is quite a sight. It's not a sight I've really experienced at a football ground, nor one I expected from Burnley, to be honest. And Arsenal played, and in particular in the first half, really well. It was a really strong performance from Arsenal. It was a really important performance from Arsenal. They're playing first, of course, in this weekend compared to the title rivals. Liverpool have obviously gone on to reclose that gap up to 7 points to them with their win in the evening over Aston Villa, which many Arsenal fans were watching on the stranded train on their way back home yesterday. But Arsenal began their game really well. And what was interesting about the game is that I expected Burnley to be a lot more defensive. I thought Burnley were going to sit back, defend, be in a low block and frustrate Arsenal. They didn't do that. Now, Arsenal have really struggled to score goals against teams from open play against those low blocks because it's a challenge. It's a challenge for any side that we're going up against those low blocks. You saw Liverpool, of course, struggle to score against Burnley earlier in the season, and they only won that game because of a mental handball that was given at the end. It was a handball, no doubt, but it was more kind of the decision-making of Hannibal to do what he did to give Liverpool that penalty. But Burnley played a lot more aggressively. They played with a much higher line, and that suited Arsenal. And I imagine that this game will be analysed, of course, by Arsenal's upcoming opponents. Of course, we've got Sunderland next week. I won't be in Sunderland for that game because there is more train trouble already expected on that line. There's loads of rail replacement services, so it's just not logistically feasible to get up there to cover that game and get back on the same day. So I'll be covering that game from home, with it being televised, of course, here in the UK. But I imagine Sunderland and other teams will be taking note of how Arsenal played against a side that decided not to set up in a low block and attacked and tried to counter. Arsenal countered themselves. And of course, the corner that leads to Arsenal's opening goal It's a weird moment because Dubravka kind of handles the ball, he slides, he goes out of play, and the ball goes out of play after he's touched it, giving a corner. It was a corner, there was no controversy about that. It was just a really strange, odd moment that would happen. And the delivery from Rice, as we have expected all season, was just so spot on, so perfect as it has been. Gabriel's touch, again, instinctual, perfectly executed with his weaker foot, and then it's just a tap in for Gyökeres with his head, and a really strong finish from him, and one, of course, that will bring him a lot of confidence. A really important Premier League goal, his first Premier League goal since that 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest all those games ago, so really important for him. And I think this was probably Gyökeres' best game. I think it was his best game in an Arsenal shirt. Everything that he did outside of the goal, his hold-up was good, his runs were good, his touch was good, his passing was good. Really good performance from Victor Gyökeres. Really, really good performance from him. And it was a shame that he came off at half-time because, and Mikel Arteta explained afterwards, both he and Martin Zubimendi suffered muscular problems. And we don't know how serious they are. Zubimendi is suspended anyway for the game against Slavia Prague, so he wasn't going to play. So hopefully he'll be fine for the game against Sunderland. If he's not fine for the game against Sunderland, of course, we've got the international break, and hopefully that'll be enough time for Zubimendi to recover for the North London derby. But obviously it's not a great sight. We'll get more updates from Mikel Arteta when I'm in Prague on Monday. If there is no updates then, the next press conference is on Friday. So we'll get updates on those two as and when we get the details of their situations. Gyökeres actually was struck just before half-time, it seemed, in the face, and we thought that was the problem, but it wasn't. But before half-time, Arsenal scored their second goal. And you'll probably, if you're an audio listener, you'll hear my kind of jokey advert that we do around how Mikel Arteta is going to try and mastermind a goal from an opponent's corner. If only I'd have said set piece, and I would have been on the money. Would have been proper Nostradamus with all this. But in terms of what we saw a long throw taken by Burnley. Gabriel heads it clear, and Gyökeres eventually gets the ball away down the right-hand side. He pings the ball across the pitch to Trossard on the left-hand side. It looks for a moment like it might be slightly overhit, and Declan Rice is all of a sudden kind of lingering around the 16-yard box. Trossard picks up the ball, gets inside, and he had a great battle all game with Kyle Walker, I thought. Pretty 50-50, but both players really had solid games to their respective sides. Great cross. Declan Rice's header, though, is... well, it was as good as his deliveries have been so far in that kind of context. Brilliant delivery, brilliant goal. Arsenal take a 2-goal lead, very comfortable. And at that point, you're thinking, well, this is going to be a procession. Arsenal are going to go and score 3, 4, 5. But the injury to Victor Gyökeres, which made it going off at half-time, really had a significant impact on this game for Arsenal. Mikel Merino came on, as he has done, because still with no Kai Havertz, no Gabriel Jesus. He is really our only option. We could have moved Trossard there, maybe Eze into the left and Waneri at 10, but it's not really something they were going to do when they've got Mikel Merino on the bench, and they know that he's obviously played some very decent games at centre-forward, including the likes of a 5-1 aggregate victory over Real Madrid. So it was always going to be Mikel Merino that played. However, Arsenal then really lacked that kind of that line-breaking speed and running from Victor in the game. Merino is not that type of player. He's much more of a profile that's going to drop, that's going to hold up play, that's going to play off others, that's going to bring the ball into feet, play the ball on. That's what he's going to look to do. He's not going to be the guy that stretches the play. And as a result, Arsenal lost that kind of outlet in their game in an area of the match where Burnley were already going to be trying to pile on the pressure and attack. It was a little bit more sloppy. There were more turnovers. Burnley got more confident. But despite that, Arsenal still remained very comfortable. And for the third match in the last 4 league games, Arsenal did not concede a shot on target. Right at the end of the game, there was a really interesting moment where Arsenal had a corner, Arsenal lost a duel, and Burnley countered. Around 10 Arsenal players sprinting back, at least 8, very much so. But Arteta referenced 8, he saw 10 Arsenal players sprinting back to defend that moment. And yes, it led to the free kick because of kind of a wild challenge from Gabriel on Hannibal. And then Edwards had the opportunity to score, hit the post. But if you hit the post, that is not a shot on target. And Arsenal survived with their clean sheet and with their clean sheet of no shots on target being conceded. for the third game in 4 matches in the Premier League. Really impressive. And Arsenal now have won 9 games in a row and added a 7th clean sheet in a row. Now, Simon Collins of The Standard pointed out that if Arsenal are to keep a clean sheet at Slavia Prague on Tuesday night, it will be the first time Arsenal have kept 8 clean sheets in a row since 1903. I'll say that again, since 1903. 122 years ago. That is astonishing what Arsenal are currently doing. The league was different then. I don't think there was as many teams in the league as there are now. It's amazing to think what Arsenal... In fact, yeah, I mean, Arsenal might not have even been in the top division at that point. Absolutely mad to think. And that's going off. I have no way of Googling because I'm using my phone to record. But I feel like we did that thing where we look back at some of the history of Arsenal. And 1903, I feel like Arsenal were in the 2nd division at that point. So, yeah, it's an amazing stat. It's an absolutely unbelievable run that Arsenal are on. And people call us boring. People say we're irritating. Another set-piece goal. But Arsenal didn't really need that set-piece goal to win yesterday, nor do I think that they would have gone on to struggle if they hadn't have got the opening from the set-piece. Bukayo Saka had 2 really big chances in one-on-one scenarios. In all honesty, he should probably be scoring those chances. Dubravka made 2 really good saves, but he should probably score those chances. Leandro Trossard had a shot saved off the line, again after one of those opportunities, and we had more opportunities in the second half. Norgard had a shot saved. Ethan Nwaneri saw a shot go wide. We had some really good chances in this game in both halves to score, and we didn't take them, but we had already got the job done by that point. There's some really good performances outside of Victor Gyökeres. Declan Rice, already talked about him, but what an astonishing performance from him. Really, really strong performance. So where does that leave Arsenal as we kind of round off the close of this 20-minute or so show? It leaves Arsenal, of course, top of the league, clear by 7 points to Liverpool. Man City currently are currently 10 points. 9 points behind Arsenal. I'm trying to do maths quickly in my head. 9 points behind Arsenal. They can close that gap if they manage to win their game today. And they are, of course, expected to be able to do that. But next week is Liverpool against Manchester City. So if Arsenal can win their game away at Sunderland, which you wouldn't bank against them doing, obviously that could open up an even bigger gap to one, maybe even both of them, depending on the scoreline in that particular fixture. Scott Parker, speaking after the game, said that they practice set pieces all week. I kind of put it to him, I was like, even if you can, you said you practice set pieces, but how really can you practice set pieces if you don't have a Declan Rice, you don't have a Gabriel? And he was like, well, yeah, obviously, but those two are just unbelievable players. And he also kind of pointed out, he said, many managers are going to sit in this chair, in the manager's chair, in a press conference chair, saying that they have conceded a goal to Arsenal from set pieces because Arsenal are just so good at them. But he also said that Arsenal have all the ingredients of a title-winning side, which was a really good line, I thought, as well, overall. Other than the drama, just from an Arsenal perspective, great day. Just from an Arsenal point of view, really, 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 really good day. And I'm thankful for that. But obviously, yesterday, Arsenal is secondary to everything that went on in the reality of the kind of human side of Saturday. And again, I'm just going to close today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Again, I wholeheartedly apologise that I can't do the usual live show. I feel like it's been forever since I've done a live show. I think our last live show was on, Wednesday? No, Thursday? And I'm not going to be able to do one for you tomorrow because I'm at the airport catching a 7:55 flight. So maybe potentially there'll be another pre-recorded episode for you all, depending on what happens in the day. Maybe there just won't be a show. I can't promise anything, but I've got an early flight tomorrow to Prague. There will be a show though, fingers crossed, live from Prague on Tuesday morning. So do be aware of that. But yes, there'll be the press conference on Monday. We'll hear from Arteta. All the updates, of course, will be provided on the Football on the website. We'll have, of course, further information and commentary in the Mirror and our other titles in the Express and the Daily Star as well. So make sure you go and check that out. Your match day vlog will be uploaded to my Instagram page at Tom Canton Media. But yeah, just again, closing the show by saying thoughts, prayers, certainly with all of those affected by the horrific attack that took place yesterday, which caused obviously so much disruption for many, many people, including many, many Arsenal fans making their way back from the game yesterday. I'm going to head off now. Hope that the next train and the train home for me is fine. Hopefully I don't have any travel issues this week again, of course, as well, with it being a Champions League week away in Europe. Never been to Prague before. Very excited for it. I hear really good things about the city, so I am looking forward to that. As you can probably tell from my tired eyes, I'm probably going to try and get a nap in today at some point as well. And Mikel Arteta tells us that he loves a nap, loves a siesta after a big bowl of paella. So maybe that's something that I need to invest in. Thank you so much for listening. If you feel like dropping a like on the video, please do. If you're new to the channel, this is not the normal content that we produce. You can see all the content that we produce on the channel. Usually at 8 a.m. It's not like this. But thank you so much for always tuning in, for listening, and apologies that the usual scheduled programming has been very much affected in most recent days. I will speak to you very soon. Have a fantastic Sunday. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.